I just wanted to share my experience with this in case anyone else is considering it. I have been using it around my own yard for a while now, and it has changed how I handle grass cutting in a very practical way. This is not for someone who loves mowing and wants those crisp, straight stripes. It is for someone who wants the lawn to stay consistently short without spending part of every weekend behind a mower, especially when it is brutally hot outside. The main idea is simple. It goes out on its own, cuts a little bit at a time, then comes back to charge and repeats that routine. The result is not a dramatic before and after like a traditional mow. It is more like the lawn just stays at a steady height and you stop thinking about it as a chore. In my case, that has been the biggest benefit. When it is close to 100 degrees outside, the difference between I need to mow today and it is already handled is hard to overstate. The first thing I noticed in real use was the noise level. I expected it to be quieter than a gas mower, but I did not expect it to basically disappear into the background. When it is running, I can still have a conversation outside. If someone is in the pool or the kids are playing, that sound easily covers it. That matters because this type of mower works best when it runs often. It is not coming out once a week to take off a lot of grass. It is shaving a little bit frequently, which keeps the lawn looking even. In terms of how it looks and feels, it comes across as a purpose-built outdoor machine. The body feels solid enough to live outside, get dirty, and keep going. The finish is the kind that is easy to wipe down, but honestly it is going to look like something that lives on the lawn, because it does. The cutting system underneath is not like a big spinning blade you would see on a push mower. It uses small blades that retract if they hit something hard. That is reassuring around pets and kids. I still treat it like a cutting tool and I do not let anyone play with it, but day to day it has been less stressful than I expected. Setup is the part you need to be realistic about because it takes effort. You have to define where it can and cannot go. In my yard, laying the boundary wire was the most time-consuming part of the whole experience. I did not bury the wire. I cut the grass short, laid the wire on top and pinned it down. After about a week or two, the grass grew over it and I stopped noticing it. That approach worked fine for me, but it does mean you need a little patience at the beginning, and you need to pay attention when you place the wire around corners, tight spots, and any area you do not want the mower to enter. Once the wire was down and the charging station was placed, daily use became pretty hands-off. It leaves the dock, does its routine, and returns to charge. In my real-world pattern, it runs for around an hour and a half, then charges for about an hour, then goes back out. I did not sit there timing it with a stopwatch, but that rhythm is what I see consistently. The important part is that you do not need to babysit it. It is doing small, frequent passes, and the clippings are tiny enough that they disappear into the lawn. Over time, my yard started to look more like it was always freshly cut, rather than having that up and down cycle you get when you mow once a week. My yard is not perfectly flat, and it deals with uneven areas better than I expected. It will bump around a bit over rougher patches, but it stays on task. On slopes, it has been dependable as long as the ground has decent traction. If you have a spot that turns into slick mud after rain, that is where any small wheeled machine can struggle. I have had a couple moments where it hesitated or took an extra try to climb through a softer area, but it has not become a constant problem. Most of the time it just works its way through. Obstacle handling is also better in real life than I assumed. If something is in the way, it slows down, bumps, stops, and then turns away. With pets, I have watched it approach, pause, and redirect without drama. With a stray toy left in the yard, it usually avoids it after a touch. That said, I have learned to keep the yard reasonably clear. It is not magic. If you leave hoses, low branches, or random clutter everywhere, you are asking for interruptions. I treat it like a regular mowing session in that sense. A quick walk around to pick up obvious stuff makes everything smoother. The navigation is a mix of boundary guidance and its own decision-making as it moves around. It does not mow in straight lines, so if you are the kind of person who wants the lawn to look like a baseball field, this will not scratch that itch. What I get instead is coverage over time. Some days you might notice it spent more time in one zone than another, but after it runs regularly, the whole yard stays even. That is the trade-off, and for my priorities, I prefer the consistent maintenance over a perfect pattern. Weather has not been a deal breaker. I have had it keep moving when light rain started, and it did not seem bothered. Sprinklers have hit it plenty of times. I do not panic if it gets wet. The bigger issue in wet conditions is not the electronics. It is traction and the fact that wet grass can clump more. I try to schedule around heavy rain when possible, mainly because I want the lawn to stay healthy and I do not want ruts in soft spots. The mobile app support is useful in a real, everyday way. I use it mostly to check status, pause it if I need to, and send it back to the dock if someone is going to be in the yard. It is the kind of control you end up appreciating because it saves you from walking outside just to handle a simple change. The smarter features are not something I think about every day, but they show up in small conveniences, like being able to adjust how it behaves without standing next to it. Maintenance has been manageable. The main thing is replacing the small blades periodically and keeping the underside from getting too caked with grass. Blade swaps are simple, but you do have to remember to do it. When the blades are fresh, it cuts more cleanly and you can see it in the way the lawn looks. When the blades get dull, it still functions, but the cut is not as clean, and that is when I notice a little more stress on the grass tips. There are limitations worth saying out loud. You need to be willing to do the initial wire setup carefully. If you rush it, you will spend the next few weeks troubleshooting weird behavior near boundaries. If your yard has lots of narrow corridors, tight pinched areas, or multiple separated zones, you will need to think through the layout. It can handle complex yards, but the complexity shows up in the planning. Also, it is not a replacement for every single yard task. Edges still need attention sometimes. And if the grass gets too tall because you ignored it for a while, you may want to do a normal cut first and then let the robot maintain it. Overall, my impression is that it is a steady, reliable way to keep a lawn consistently trimmed, as long as you go into it with the right expectations. It is not about making mowing fun. It is about making mowing less of a thing you have to plan your day around. For me, the quiet operation, the hands-off routine, and the way it keeps the yard looking even have been the real benefits. The setup takes time, and you will still have small moments where you need to intervene, but compared to pushing a mower in extreme heat, it has been a worthwhile change in my daily life. Please check the comments section for detailed information about the Husqvarna Automower 430XH. Thank you for watching.